Hello again. Hope you've enjoyed the program thus far. And if there's anything you've missed, it's all on the indexproject.org. There's a wealth of inspiration from the past few days already there. As for today, the session is focused on the importance of education and how design thinking and creativity are foundational to it. With that in mind, we'll be speaking to Christina Niewöhner, Senior Project Manager from Siemens Stiftung, Lilo Maclachlan, Educator and Coordinator from Deutsche Internationale Schule, Johannesburg, and Mayte, General Director of Instituto, APOYO, to hear how best we foster the next generation of designers to improve life.
Hello everyone, and welcome one more time to today's event of Fostering the Next Generation. Christine, Lilo, Mayte, thank you so much for being here today with us. All of you have achieved certification in using the Design to Improve Life Compass for your own purposes, but also in teaching and facilitation situations. And of course, you are also great Design to Improve Life thinkers. We love that our methodology, the Compass, is being used in so many different regions and contexts. And today we have the privilege of having representatives from Germany, South Africa, and Peru sharing the stories that you have with it. So without further ado, let's welcome the three speakers of the day, starting with the Siemens Foundation take on this theme. So Christine.
Thank you, Mariano, and the Index Project for the invitation to this panel as part of the pre-event series celebrating the Index Award 2021. Good morning and good afternoon, dear international audience, and thank you for tuning in today. My name is Christine Niewöhner. I'm a Senior Project Manager at the education team of Siemens Stiftung, an international foundation. I am responsible for the area STEM and creativity within the education team. During my short presentation, I'd like to give you insights on how we work with our collaboration partner, the Index Project, to prepare young learners to, can I start this again? During my short presentation, I'd like to give you insights into how we work with our collaboration partner, the Index Project, to prepare young learners around the world to rise to the challenges of our times. We do this by introducing design-based education and the concept of design to improve life into classrooms. And I'm particularly pleased that two key representatives of our collaboration partners in South Africa and in Peru will share concrete examples from their work in classrooms and their experiences with design-based education as an innovative teaching and learning methodology. So allow me briefly to just say, a few words about Siemens Stiftung. As a non-profit foundation, we promote sustainable social development. This is crucially dependent on access to basic services, on high quality education, and an understanding of culture. The geographical focus of our work is on regions in Africa and Latin America, as well as Germany and other European countries. Together with our international collaboration partners from these regions, we develop and implement solutions and programs supporting people in taking the initiative to responsibly address current challenges. Speaking about challenges, the challenges of our times are quite complex. Climate change and the depletion of natural resources require urgent action and adaptation at all levels. Disruptive innovations in science and technology, especially in biotechnology and artificial intelligence, are creating new opportunities and solutions that can enrich our lives. But at the same time, they raise fundamental questions about what it is to be human and how we can make sure that no one is left behind. Because we want to pursue better lives for everyone. A growing global population is contributing to increased migration, urbanization processes, and social and cultural diversity. At the same time, inequalities in living standards and life expectancy have led to more social conflicts and instability. And now on top of all of this, we've got a pandemic. Of course, not an entirely new issue, but one that we have never had to address in recent memory. Not only has the pandemic brought us to the brink of our healthcare systems, but it also has brought a challenge to our economy and political systems and a cause for social and educational crisis. It's true that these global trends and challenges confronting all of us are overwhelming, if not threatening. However, at Siemens Stiftung, we are convinced that these can become rich opportunities if we manage to embrace them and if we learn to create the sustainable future we want for ourselves as individuals and as a society. If young generations are going to confront and embrace changing times and shape their world for the better, education plays a crucial role. This is not only about preparing for jobs. It is about fostering active, responsible and engaged people, people who are willing to contribute, able to embrace challenges and capable of shaping their future. And here it is essential that education systems go beyond basic literacy and knowledge. These remain important, of course, for understanding complex concepts, but they need to be supplemented by a complete set of skills that prepare young learners for life in the 21st century. International education experts and institutions, such as the OECD, have identified what are known as the 21st century skills, or the 4 Cs, which include creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, to name just the most relevant. But also with regard to the job market of the future, there will be an increasing demand by international employers for skills such as innovation, creative problem solving, creativity between now and 2025, as stated by the World Economic Forum in the New Future of Jobs report. So this is why Siemens Stiftung has expanded its international education program to include STEM and creativity, which is the main focus of the international education project Design Thinking in STEM. We set it up together with the Index project. Design Thinking in STEM consists of 3 elements. First, it's about high quality and holistic STEM education that addresses a basic task: understanding many of the complex challenges we currently face around the world. Second, the project utilizes design thinking as an innovative teaching and learning methodology, a creative approach that nurtures creative confidence and innovative capabilities in young learners. And third, we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to combine global relevance with very unique local characteristics in determining the specific problems we tackle in the project. Now, let me shortly point out why design-based education is such a suitable teaching and learning methodology for a 21st century education that addresses sustainability topics in the classroom and fosters future skills. First, the design thinking process forces us to narrow down an abstract problem, maybe one taken from the UN SDGs, to a very specific context. This makes an abstract problem tangible and very concrete. Second, the method is based on people and on solutions, emphasizing the human touch and our ability to come up with a solution to a problem that works for a specific user and is designed to improve his or her life. Third, design thinking offers a multi-perspective approach to a complex problem, considering different perspectives in the socio-economic reality of sustainability. And finally, and maybe most important, the method creates a change in mindset. Long-term engagement and responsible action become permanent. As previously mentioned, Siemens Stiftung typically works on joint projects with international cooperation partners. For this project, we are quite grateful for our effective and inspiring collaboration with the Index project. We found a perfect match with the Index project, not only because of their years of experience applying the methodology in schools, but also, and maybe even more important, due to their unique focus on sustainability challenges and their use of design to improve life. So together, we developed and implemented the project Design Thinking in STEM in our various networks. We started with a pilot in 2019 in South Africa. This has since grown, and we are now partnering with the local Hasso-Plattner School of Design Thinking at the University of Cape Town, Africa's first design thinking school, on expanding the project there. And it's great to have Lilo Maclachlan with us today. She's an educator at the German International School in Johannesburg and will give us more information about her concrete use of the methodology in class in a bit. The design thinking in STEM journey continued in Chile, where we set up a collaboration with 2 universities. We're in phase 2 with them right now, meaning that after introducing design-based education to teachers in Chile, we are now jointly training them to be trainers and pass on their knowledge to other teachers. This year, we have expanded design thinking in STEM to Peru and to Mexico, with virtual workshops for teachers and multipliers. Mayte Morales, an education expert from our collaboration partner Instituto APOYO, will tell us more about her perspective on the project and its implementation in Peru. And with that, I'm coming to the end of my short introduction. It's been a great journey so far together with the Index project and our collaboration partners in the different regions. And of course, we are looking forward to reaching out to many more interested persons and organizations. Feel free to reach out to us using the mentioned contact details if you'd like to get in touch. You can also visit our website, YouTube channel, or follow us on social media. We strongly believe that jointly we achieve more, so looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
So now we're going to hear the story from South Africa. Lilo, please, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Lilo Maclachlan. I've been in education for 25 years and I work at the German International School. I've had the privilege to work for about for the last 10 years with the Siemens Stiftung, doing workshops in South Africa, teaching teachers how to do cooperative learning, as well as had the privilege of doing training in Nigeria. The first time I came across design thinking was when I was invited 2 years ago to go to a workshop, and the workshop was held at the D School in Cape Town, and the Index crowd came and presented it to us. The story that really struck me in the beginning was, I know this sounds like a strange title, Change Lives and Don't Become a Doorstopper, but it will make sense in a second. They told us the story about this organization in Europe that wanted to make a difference. And they wanted to send out centrifuges to the hospitals. Now, a centrifuge is an incredible tool that takes blood and spins it at incredible speeds and separates the red blood cells from the white blood cells. And from that, you can diagnose all kinds of diseases. And they went then to Africa to see how the wonderful tool was being used. And to their horror, they found out it was being used as a doorstopper. What they'd failed to find out was that the hospital had no electricity. Now, this is where design thinking comes in. Design thinking does its research properly. It goes and finds out what the people's needs are. And this really got me thinking. I suddenly realized, have I made the children's projects a doorstopper? Has it become something that is not useful, that didn't change lives? And I really got challenged by that. My learners keep on asking me how much what we've learned in school really helps us in real life. And I wanted my education to be different. I wanted my education to be relevant to something that they understand around them and in their situation. I wanted it to be interactive. Well, that's where my cooperative learning already was coming in. But most of all, I really wanted it to make a difference. So in all these things, I started thinking, how could I change my whole thinking, my thought process? And also what happened is that my daughter is in working as a marketing manager, and she uses design thinking in the workplace. And I was speaking to another person who does UX for a bank, and they use design thinking. And I thought, well, design thinking is even used in the real world, in the marketplace. So it's very important that we start already introducing our learners to this kind of thought process. So the first thing is that we were introduced to this compass, and the compass has got many parts to it. So I'm just going to highlight a few, and starting off with how to choose a topic. Now in South Africa, there's many socio-economic problems, and they're actually pretty much at our doorstep. So for the children to choose a topic that was what would help social development is actually not hard to find. I also encourage them to find something close to them, because we also have got transport problems, we have safety issues in South Africa, so it would be easier if they had something that was close by and they could see the immediate effects of their design thinking. And the children didn't find it at all difficult to find topics, and were very excited about this whole process. The next tool that I'm going to introduce you to really reflects around that door stopper idea, that not to create door stoppers. And this is the persona. Now, this is a very powerful tool. Now, what a persona does, it makes the project personal. You go and you choose somebody who you're going to design something for, and you find out where they live and what they do and where they go to and what they like and what they dislike and how much they have for the project, how many resources and how many resources they don't have. And then you create this persona. Now, what was very interesting in my first round of design thinking is that the learners came back to me and it was very superficially done. So I challenged them to go back and make sure that when I read that persona, I actually knew the person. Then they came back again and they said, the people were saying it's becoming too personal, and they didn't actually want their photo on the persona, and they would want them not to use their real name. But at that point, I felt like they were getting to the point where they really understood the person's needs. So it really worked well. The next link is that we really want the team to work together. Now, my cooperative learning is something that is used very closely. Index also brings it in. Is that you want a group that is heterogeneous, a group that comes from different backgrounds, have got different ideas, different strengths. And this is where communication comes in. I want my learners to just communicate. I want them to learn to argue. I want them to put their ideas and be challenged. And the design thinking gives you the tools to be doing that exact thing. The next one, the next slide that I'm going to show you, I would just want you to realize there's going to be a lot of writing on the right-hand side. I want you just to focus on the headings because it talks about research. So I'm looking at the headings. It says there, what do we know? What do we think we know? What do we need to know? This comes from one of my students' logbooks. And research is something that I learned that in the first topic, the first time I did design thinking, they wanted to brush over it. They wanted to go too fast through it. So I've slowed down the whole process, and I said to the students, you have to do this part properly. And you always have to think back on your persona, because also in that first group, they did the persona and then they forgot about their persona, went on with their research and their prototype and everything, and forgot about who they were designing for. So all of this, when they're doing the research, when they're building their prototype, they have to always reflect back on the person that they're designing for. Now, research is to be prepared, to make sure that you've got all the information you need to build a really good prototype, or to actually design something properly. And then they really get an understanding of their project, and they're preempting hurdles, which is very important, because if they suddenly realize the cost is too big or it's too complicated, they can go back to the challenge stage, rethink their challenge, rethink their topic, and then come up with a new idea that is more doable. And then to bring it all together, I brought in the logbook. Now, the logbook is an awesome tool where the children are always recording what they're doing, and you can actually see how much time they've invested in the project. They become incredibly proud of their logbooks. They're beautiful designs, they print out things, they put in pictures, and it shows that they have put a lot of elements of thought behind it. And sometimes they fail. And they fail again and they fail again, but yet the logbook shows me all their progress. So I know that they've put a lot of work in it, and I can still give them credit for the work that and the thought that they've put behind it. See, the whole idea of the compass is that we come in a full circle, that we do the prototype, that we look at it, and then we start again and think, where can we go better? And design thinking has really helped my students to do that. In this whole process, I'm really hoping to come back to the point that my students, my learners, will change lives and not become door stoppers. Thank you very much.
So we're going to continue with the last presentation of today, and it's going to be Mayte from Peru sharing her story of design to improve life.
Thank you, Mariano. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, the Index Award 2021. It's for us, Instituto APOYO, an honor to be here. My name is Mayte, and I am the General Director of Instituto APOYO and as well Secretary of the STEAM plus H Peru Forum. So I'm delighted to be here. And our goal is to, in the next page, you can see that our goal is fostering the next generation to use design thinking to improve life. So this is the goal. And in this point, I have to highlight two key ideas. One is that educating today is crucial, and it must be focused in the present, but as well in the future. And in that sense, it is important the how we educate for today and for the future. In the present, we have to motivate children, but before that, in Latin America, we have to motivate teachers. That is a great challenge that we have. And the second idea that we must think about the future, we have to think how we want these children to be in the future as adults. So how they are going to design the solutions to improve life. That is the first idea in regard to the goal. The second idea is achieving lifelong learning. And the base is to promote a culture of thinking critically and creatively, with the capacity of working, of learning with others and from others in order to solve problems. So these key ideas give us to the next idea. Please, can you move on? That is related to design thinking to solve real world problems. So we get into the process thinking about the objective, and the objective and the great thing is to take the decision to think, to solve. And this again is related to culture, to building this kind of culture that is vinculated to life, to the context. And that is what design thinking makes, because it has the power to transform the thinking or the way teachers think to apply it in students. In the next one, we can see as well the big step, the first big step, that is identifying the challenge problem. So we get involved, motivated, very motivated in the process of design thinking. And you can see here this big step that is identifying the challenge, the problem. This is something that not necessarily in Latin America is easy to do. We have so many problems, and the causes of these problems sometimes are not easy to find. So it's a little bit confusing, the difference between a problem and the causes of a problem. In regard to this, design thinking focus in the problem and lead you to the problem. That is very, very important. Please, can you move on till the second big step? So you can see that the context of Latin America is very hard, as in some countries in Africa as well. The second big step is finding and structuring the knowledge in regard to the problem. This is very, very important because in this point, teachers and students are focused in the knowledge that they get, that they build together, and they apply it to solving problems. The next one, please. And here you can see in the third big step, you describe the design task that you want to work with. That is another big step because in our context, it is difficult to communicate with others in regard to a concrete theme, and in this case, to the concrete task, how we're going to solve the problem that we have identified. That is another big step that we have noticed that it is possible through design thinking. In the fourth big step, the next one, you have to generate ideas on how to solve the problem. This using the methodology of design thinking, children build together in regard, and teachers especially, they build together in regard to a positive idea. So they go, then they construct, you know, this sort of mind mapping that led them to this group of big ideas of solutions and get at the end to a big solution. We have found that this gives the teachers the possibility to build together and to focus on the solution after finding the problem. So can you move on, please, till the platform, digital platform? You can see there the teachers. And in the digital platform, we have built a digital platform so that teachers can get in and have access to the methodology so they can use it and they can replicate it as well. The next, please. And the best thing is that this kind of methodology allows that the stakeholders vinculated to the different projects can express themselves, can build together. And we can see here some authorities, for example, the director of the pedagogical management education system in Arequipa, that is in the southern part of Peru, Wilber Gomez, that declares that design thinking is a methodology that can be implemented in various fields of actions. And he highlights as well that he uses now design thinking in his institution, in this pedagogical management regional office. So it is very important because the authorities now are using design thinking in their institutions. As well, the next, please, you can see what Joana Cordova, that is a trainer of trainers, says. She says design thinking is a novel methodology because it encourages creativity and reflection to develop a proposed solution. No? And this is true. And what we want and what we are trying to do is to train trainers in order that they train other people and build a community. The next one talks about principals and teachers. Magali Rivera, that is an elementary school teacher, says that her role as a teacher is related to this belief that design thinking works as an excellent tool for students to develop their competencies linked to critical, creative, and logical thinking, and as well their social, emotional skills that allow them to feel the confidence and autonomy necessary to propose solutions to problems they face in classroom and in daily lives. The next one is related to students. Design thinking, they say, is an opportunity for young students to find their purpose in life, no? And this is related to the development of 21st century skills. You know, this successful or success skills that any adult need for life. And this is related to creative thinking, to critical thinking, teamwork, and communication. But as well, they develop social, emotional competences and innovation competence to be creative, to have this attitude towards solving problems, link them to the environment, to the context they live in, and get them to action. And at last, they develop digital competences because they use digital tools more in this time. The next one, therefore, it's a responsibility to communicate, to foster to the educational community the importance of design thinking in life, in events like this one, and as well, it will be promoted in the international seminar, on the STEAM plus Age international seminar. The next one, please. And at last, I have to say that together, through the development of their thinking, we can help transform the problems into solutions. But how to do this? We truly think that we have to install from the first infancy a culture of thinking, motivating this learning, fostering this long-term learning by developing successful skills for life. And design thinking is a great way to do this, installing this thinking as a culture of the school, of community, and developing STEM for sustainable development. So thank you very much. Design thinking is a great tool that will help development in Latin America.
So thank you very much for these wonderful presentations. I'm pretty sure that everybody has heard a lot, and also heard how the design thinking methodologies are being implemented in different scenarios, right? But now we're going to be discussing a little bit, having a bit of a panel conversation. And the first question that I would like to ask is especially for Mayte and for Lilo, and it's basically is how do we implement, how do we implement these design thinking methodologies in conventional education systems? So I don't know, Lilo, do you want to begin?
Okay, so in conventional education systems, and I'm sure that in Latin America it's similar, the class sizes are extremely big. And the nice thing about design thinking, you don't really need a lot of tools to be able to do so. The whole thing is shifting the idea of the teachers from being the central point to actually allowing the learners to be the central point. And that is our biggest issue, is that to give the teachers the ability to say, okay, I trust my students to take control of the situation and that they can think for themselves. So I would like to hear from Mayte to see what she thinks about that.
Thank you, Lilo. Definitely, I completely agree with Lilo. And in the case of Peru, in regard to teachers, they have to feel that they are autonomous, no? And they can give autonomy. And in the case of the students as well, they have not been raised in a environment of autonomy, but more of, let's say, authority. So they are they are asking about the task, and that is something that we must change. They should ask, or they should be motivated to ask about these delightful things, these motivational things that are related to design thinking methodology, and not what I should do, when I should finish this, how I should do it. So in this part, the teacher is crucial, because the questions should be, you know, transformed into these other kind of questions, and I know we are going to achieve that goal.
I can definitely I identify with what you're saying, Mayte, because I coming from the continent, right? But do you see that also, Lilo? I mean, is it also? I mean, South Africa is completely different from Latin America, but do you also see these old methods and the new methods clashing?
See, what happens is that you need to be able to build a bridge between the two. So our education system is mark driven. It is, the children will always ask, the learners ask, so is this for marks? I'm going to do it if it's for marks. I'm not going to do it because it's fun. I'm not going to do it because it's creative. I want to do it because I can achieve the marks, so that I can get my matric or whatever the end certificate is, and so that I can go to university and then I can start life. They don't realize that life can actually start at school already. And it's building that bridge and saying, okay, how can I make sure that the children feel that they're still getting the marks, but they are joining me on this creative journey as well.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it makes it so much more interesting, right? But okay, and now shaking a little bit on this question, but now I'm also for you, Christine. When we think about education methods and we're talking about this clash, what do you think that this education method is different from the conventional ones? What is it that it makes it different? What is it that makes the kids click on this?
Yeah, well, I think already one huge benefit of design thinking as an innovative teaching and learning methodology is how it enables a student to work successfully in multidisciplinary teams to bring about change and positive change into the world. So if you want, the focus is less on pure transmission of knowledge, but rather on the agency of each student being able to solve a real world problem and offering a solution to those people who need it. So in that sense, it's actually, as we heard from Lilo and Mayte, changing the learning and teaching process, because a student is making his or her own experiences, eventually might fail, and then even accept untraditional ideas and by thus embrace innovation and change. So it's more a shift from towards a more active learning of a student, putting the student and his or her needs in the center and focusing on his learning journey rather than focusing on academic results only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if we think about, I mean, this is a really big change. We have to think that these education systems that we're talking about, I mean, the old school education systems, they have been for a really long time. Now we are having a new way of having an education system. But what are the skills then? When we think about the coming generations, right? What are the skills that they should improve? What should they focus on?
So my thinking is that, you know what design thinking does? It does a shift in so many ways. The first shift is the children are used to having a problem and solving it. So there's two steps. You read your problem. The second step is you solve it. And to get the children away from that. So your first step is let's look and make it a little bit more personal. Let's think about it in your section. Let's make it relevant. And then go out and do research. And research is a tool. It's something that kids can't just do. We think they're sitting every day on the internet, they're looking at YouTube, they know how to research. But for them to put the right keywords into a search engine is a hard task for them. They don't bring out the right information. And if they get to university, if they get into the real world, that is what's going to be expected for them. And we are not actually preparing them for the real world by having a teacher in the front, giving out information and the kids sitting in little rows and writing down the information so that they can read the task and do it. So they're giving no thought process, no communication skills. And if you saw all three of our presentations, it's that critical thinking that we are trying to bring about. It's the communication that we want to bring about. We want them to also realize that they have to speak to each other and integrate and fight a little bit and argue and mix and then come up with something. And those are all amazing things that our now education is not actually providing.
Mm-hmm.
Mayte, what do you think?
Yes. Yes, I wanted to add definitely agree another time with Lilo. I think that we are so focused and we are so in the, in the field that we can see all this necessity that we, not only the necessity, but the challenge that we have to transform and to think about, not only about the present, that is something that I said in the presentation, but about the future, How, if we close our eyes and we think about these students, how we want them to be as adults, in the context of the world in that moment as well. For me, it's really worrying what they are going to, to challenge in those times. And for that, they have to have these successful skills that they need to, to acquire. And these are related to the 21st century skills. Obviously, yes, but diversity, human beings, we are diverse. So we can't say this is how you should be, but they have to find themselves in this journey. And I really think that the tool of design thinking, is a tool. It's a tool so they can know themselves better, to decide to think. This is something, Mariano, in Latin America is difficult. Decide thinking. You are the owner of your thinking, and then apply that thinking, apply the knowledge that you build, in order to solve problems is something, it's the best tool that you can give a human being. So thank you very much, really, for design thinking as a tool. Thank you.
I actually would pick up something from your presentation, Mayte, here as well. It was great to see how we overlap with the skills, mentioning creativity, communication, critical thinking, etc. So we all agree that those are the core skills we need to look at preparing our next generation. But something I think is also very important, you mentioned the future and the present, Mayte. As the future is unpredictable, the ability to learn and understanding of growth mindset is a core skill as well that hopefully every young learner will bring into an unpredictable future.
Yes.
Really good points, I think, because imagine a society that has all of this knowledge from the start, from kids. You learn to think for yourself, to solve, to think outside the box for real, right? And we have been talking about old school education, new school skills, and they are just a small fraction of the education world. So for the three of you, this is a little bit more personal question, but every night you go to bed, you're laying awake because you cannot fall asleep because you have so many ideas of education. What are these ideas? What education ideas keeps you awake at night?
Lilo, you have to.
I'm bursting. I want to change the world. So I've always been taught think big and start small. So I do think big, and I start small in my classroom, and I go out to meet the world. And I really think that curricula, where it starts, it's somewhere where we have to hit that, and it's not just a Africa problem, it's a European problem that as soon as you want to bring something more creative, everybody resists because it's you can't put it in a box, you can't contain it, and that you how are we going to evaluate that is many times the question. But the thing is that what do we want to achieve? And I think design thinking has to come into the curriculum in terms of the people that are sitting on the top need to actually learn how to do design thinking to design a curriculum that is for the learners now. And they should actually come and bring the child to the forum and put the child in the middle and find out what is this child's need for the future. What is this child that is now who's 10 years old and is going to leave school in 8 years' time? What is their future going to look like? And are we meeting those children's needs? And therefore, maybe we have to actually take some of the content out, because content is found very easily nowadays. Information you can find very easily. We can be replaced by computers in many ways tomorrow. But what makes us unique as human beings is that we've got creativity, we've got thinking, we can problem solve. And therefore, we need to culture those so that our youngsters have got a job for the future. And that starts with changing curricula and changing the mind of teachers, how they teach, and saying you cannot look at how you were doing teaching in the past. You have to look at it in a new way.
All right. Excellent answer. Christine, Mayte, we have only 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you know,
something.
No, actually, looking at the challenges we're currently dealing with, let's face it, they are mainly human-made. So what really keeps my mind busy is how can we keep that planet a livable one for us as individuals, but also as a society. So having a personal passion for creativity, I think that here actually we can really rely on our unique human capacity to create ideas and come up with innovative solutions. By the way, skills that come very naturally for children. And even more, I think it is almost a responsibility and obligation to use our creative minds and imagine the solutions that we need to keep our planet a livable one and to reach the transformation that we need for our societies, but also for education. So speaking about education, here focusing on what is really relevant for young learners is key.
Very brief. Something that don't let me sleep is how to motivate children, students in general, and how to motivate teachers as well, you know, to make education have a sense for people. No, in this moment where everything is uncertain, no, and you need to be happy. You need to be motivated to learn and to learn through life. And this learning through life, this long life learning should have a purpose. No, and this purpose is solving problems, and it's solving problems that impact you, but as well a community. So this is what makes me be sometimes during the bedtime, like open my eyes and I say, what is going to happen with these children? How are they going to get in touch really with what they are, their feelings, and how these feelings go out and transform the world. So for better, please, for better. So,
thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mayte, and thank you very much, Lilo, and thank you very much, Christine. Thank you. Okay, and all of you have some questions for each other. So let's begin by you asking these questions. And Christine, let's begin with you.
Thank you. Yes, I do have a question to Lilo, because what interests me actually is, Lilo, we are talking a lot about how we could nurture creativity among young learners. So what interests me is how have you as a teacher actually applying an innovative teaching and learning methodologies such as design thinking experienced your own creativity? And if I may add, how has this maybe changed your role as a teacher?
So there's two aspects to my job, is that I'm also a little bit in management at school. So I'm a coordinator as well as I'm a teacher. And with the teaching, for me personally, it made me step back and actually look at my learners and say, I have to ask my learners some questions. I have to get to know my learners a little bit more, because sometimes what you do as a teacher, you live in your little world and they live in their world, and you are bringing that all the knowledge across to them. And you need to actually just step a little bit over that. And you have to realize, I need to know my learners a little bit better. And am I meeting their needs? You know, and that question, am I meeting their needs, is something that we think it's for them to bring the knowledge right and write an A on a piece of paper, but that's not always their needs. There's a lot of micro needs. There's emotional needs, there's sensitivity needs, there's blocks that they have, bad days they have, and just actually knowing you learn better. So design thinking, sometimes when I sit and I start preparing my lesson, I think to myself, who are my learners that have got in the classroom, and let me design something for this specific group, because they are different from my next year's group. So that's one thing that it really, really has done. And the thing is also, I think that when you're in management, it's very easy to be top heavy and expect things from those below you and think that you've got this grand plan, but you haven't gone down to the ground and just asked simple questions. You know, do you have electricity? I mean, I know I'm just focusing back on that, but it's just basically, let's interact and ask some questions, do some research, do some design thinking before we just implement new strategies.
Wow, thank you, Lilo.
Thank you very much. And Lilo, we continue with you. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question for Mayte. Mayte, I'm in the high school region, so I've seen a lot of this design thinking being used for high school learners. I would be very interested to hear, and I've seen a little bit pictures where little children were involved as well. I want to know, where have you aimed at? What age group have you aimed at? Or have you aimed at a broad spectrum? Can you give me some feedback on that?
Thank you, Lilo. Well, I have to say that in this point, in Peru, we are implementing design thinking, especially in teachers from elementary schools. And we have find, you know, these teachers, some of them started thinking that they couldn't do it, okay? But after the workshops, they were really empowered. So they could realize how many things they can do, you know, having acquired this methodology, and yes, they now, I think that they are different. They are different persons, really. We had a workshop, an ending workshop, and there were really motivating declarations of what they have done. And after that, we have been following them, and it's marvelous to see how they apply this in schools. So we are using this in the teachers, the methodology, and they are transferring this to students of elementary schools. Yes, and definitely I have to highlight that there are some things that have worked very well, and design thinking has promoted creativity, curiosity, motivation, but as well, you know, these skills related to organization, to thinking critically and creatively, and allowing teamwork, for solving problems. So the methodology really works, and we're very happy about that.
Thank you, Mayte. And Mayte, do you have a question?
Yes. It's a little bit tricky for Christine, because the question is, from your experience in Germany, which are the lessons learned and steps to follow in order to foster from the public policy to the education community and vice versa, the use of design thinking to improve life education in conventional systems as per rule? So which are the lessons learned?
Thank you, Mayte, for asking such a tricky question. No, because this question is on our minds a lot, actually. Well, to admit, Siemens Stiftung has not implemented design thinking in STEM in the German education system yet. But if I bring the question to a more general level, how actually we can reach change in education, which is crucial, because looking at the rapid technological, societal and economic changes. So here it is important to always address all stakeholders in the ecosystem of education, as you have also mentioned in your presentation, Mayte. So starting from the student and his peers and teachers and maybe school principals, but then continuing with families, reaching out into local communities, addressing school boards, teacher education systems, and finally ending up with policymakers. So all these different stakeholders have to be addressed. And with our Design Thinking in STEM project, we start at the teacher education, right? Because they are key agents of change in education. And of course, looking at the current situation with pandemic, the least thing we want for them is to burden them with an additional task, or looking at all the challenges they are currently dealing with. So we carefully examine local curricula in each of the country we are working with to find and identify those entry points, be it curricular topics or competencies where we can actually start applying the design thinking process. And once teachers have started working with it, and Lilo has confirmed that previously, and same for you, Mayte, they actually see the benefit and the potential of the methodology and see actually how it supports them. And in Latin America, we have already reached out through the work of the teachers to local communities and even supranational networks, which is great to see. And one thing to mention here as well is none of us is going to bring change alone into an education system or a society. So we can only reach impact and the necessary transformation for education and society if we do it together. And this is actually why we are so grateful for the collaboration with the Index project, with Instituto, APOYO, and schools such as Deutsche, Schule, Johannesburg. Yeah. So that was a long answer to a quick question.
Oh, thank you, Christine. Definitely, thank you very much, because you know, Siemens Stiftung is a great leader and promotes special education, different education in the world. And in Latin America, we have, you know, the LATAM STEM network that works very hard for making your words happen. No? So thank you for your answer for the tricky question.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much to the three of you. Great questions, great answers. And you know, I would love to continue talking, but we have a schedule. So I would like to finish today's event by thanking you so much, Christine, Lilo, Mayte. So thankful for having you here. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lilo. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayte.
Thank you.
And Christina, thank you so much.
And goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you to Christina, Mayte, and Lilo for sharing your learnings on teaching today and giving some insight on the importance of design thinking education. Tomorrow, we're doing another trend deep dive with 3 more of this year's Index Award finalists. And remember, you can still vote for the People's Choice Awards. Visit theindexproject.org for details on how to vote. See you then.